Today's lesson in Chapter 3 is going to be Lesson 4, Multiplying Integers. Again, our essential question, what happens when you add, subtract, multiply, and divide integers? So today we're going to be focusing on the multiplication of integers. Remember, integers are going to be your positive numbers, your positive whole numbers, and their opposites. You will notice that there is no vocab for this lesson, so you don't need to worry about completing any vocab words on your vocab web. We're going to go ahead and take a look at page 234. As I take a look at the top of 234, they give us one of the rules that we need to follow when we are working with multiplying integers with different signs. One of the things that you're going to want to highlight or take note of in your book is the product of two integers with different signs is negative. One of the things that you're going to want to familiarize yourself with or become aware of is product, remember, means when you're multiplying. Product is your answer to a multiplication problem. Okay? So as I take a look at this, the answer to a multiplication problem of two integers with different signs is going to be a negative. Okay, so what this means is we're going to be looking at situations where we're looking at a positive number and a negative number, or a negative number and a positive number. Again, when we multiply those, our answer is always going to be a negative. Okay, a couple other examples that you can see besides the ones in the book. For example, if I would take negative 10 times 3, I've got a negative number times a positive, negative 10 times 3. 10 times 3 is 30, and I have a negative, so my answer is going to be a negative. Another example could be, let's say if I have 12 times negative 4. 12 would be a positive number, negative 4 is negative. I have one negative number, so my answer is going to be negative, and 12 times 4 is 48. So those are a couple other examples that you would have besides ones that are in the book for you. Okay. They give you a number line here that you can take note of if you would like to. One thing to focus on is your commutative property of multiplication. Remember, commutative means you can change the order of your multiplication. Example would be here that they have 4 times negative 3 is the same as negative 3 times 4. If I would multiply negative 5 times 2, that's the same as multiplying 2 times negative 5. When you are multiplying, remember the order does not matter. Okay, you can change that. You can take a look at example 1. Pretty simple there. Example 2, same thing. Okay, go ahead and take a minute and answer questions A and B. If you've got it problems, you can pause the video to fill those in if need be. I'm thinking to myself right now as I look at got it problem letter A, 9 times 2 is 18. Okay, and I'm taking a positive times a negative, so my answer is going to be negative. As I take a look at letter B, I've got a negative times a positive, so I know my answer is negative. 7 times 4, 28. Okay. When we're looking at multiplying integers with the same signs, okay, this becomes a lot easier. The product of two integers with the same sign is going to be a positive. Okay, doesn't matter if they're both negative or it doesn't matter if they're both positive. Anytime you have two numbers that are the same, your answer is going to always be positive. Here's an example where you have two positives and you come up with a positive answer. Here's an example where you have two negatives and you have a negative answer, or a positive answer, I'm sorry. Negative times a negative is a positive. Taking a look at examples 3 and 4. Again, a negative times a negative is going to be a positive. This one's a little bit different here, example 4, because we are looking at the squaring of a number. Remember, the squaring of the number is the same as taking that base number times itself. So you can see I'm in parentheses, I have negative 4 squared. So that would be the same as negative 4 times negative 4. A negative times a negative is a positive. 4 times 4 is 16. So be aware of when you're squaring numbers as well. This one's a little bit different in example 5 because this time we're multiplying 3 numbers. And all 3 of them happen to be negatives. So when I'm looking at a situation where I have 3 negatives, my answer is going to have to be a negative. Reason for that being, one of the things you want to remember is when you have 3 negatives or an odd number of negatives, your answer is going to be a negative. So when I'm looking at this, I know 3 times 4 is 12, 12 times 2 is 24, and again, I've got 3 negatives, so my answer would be negative. If I would have 5 numbers that are negatives or 5 negatives, that would be a negative answer. If I would have 7 or if I would have 9 or so on with odd numbers, my answers would be negatives. Anytime you have an even amount of negatives, then your answer would be even or positive. As I take a look at Got It problems C, D, and E, please pause the video to take a minute to answer these. $12 times 4 is going to give me 48, and a negative times a negative is a positive. Negative 5 squared, that's the same as taking negative 5 times negative 5. Negative times a negative is a positive. 5 times 5 is 25. So there's my answer for that one. As I look at letter E, I've got 3 negatives, so therefore I have an odd number of negatives, so my answer is negative. When I look at this, 7 times 5 would be 35. And then I'm thinking 35 times 3. 5 times 3 is 15. I carry my 1. 3 times 3 is 9 plus 1 is 10. So my answer should be negative 105. Hopefully you came up with those same answers too. Taking a look at the top of 236, they're giving you a real life example of it says a submersible is diving from the surface of the water at a rate of 90 feet per minute. Remember, we're looking at a submersible diving from the surface, meaning they're going down, which means this is going to end up being a negative number. What is your depth of the submersible after 7 minutes? So you can see they're taking negative 90 again because they're going down, times 7 because we want to figure it out for over a course of 7 minutes. So they come up with negative 630 feet. As we take a look at the other practice Got It problem, they have letter F. Mr. Simon's bank automatically deducts a $4 monthly maintenance fee from his savings account. Write a multiplication expression to represent the maintenance fees for 1 year. Then find the product and explain its meaning. So as we take a look at this, automatically deducts. When we think about deducting, that means we're taking out. Now I know that they're taking out $4 each month, so I'm going to write that as negative 4. My job is to write a multiplication expression to represent maintenance fees for 1 year. Now I know in 1 year there's 12 months. So I'm going to end up multiplying negative 4 times 12. There's my multiplication expression. We don't want it to equal anything because we're just looking at an expression. Then my job is to find the product and explain its meaning. So my answer would be a negative 48. Now what does that mean? Basically, that means that they are going to owe $48 in fees. And that would be over the course of a year.